Yo, what's going on YouTube? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Apex and Tradeful funded accounts that I have. We are up over $190,000 on these accounts. This last week that just wrapped up, we are up over $95,000. I'm not even going to include my Top Step X account in this video because I did take a payout, but we did hit a banger trade on Friday. But I really want to focus on these Apex and Tradeful accounts because I haven't taken payouts on these firms yet. I've been working on my Tradeful accounts for a little over 30 trading days. Like if I switch over here, you guys will see this. I got to make about 11.5K. I'll just round it up. But I've had these accounts for a long time. Since February was a break-even month, and I've been trying to get a payout with these accounts for a while. So I'm about there. I'm pretty sure I'll hit it for next week. So that's about a $15,000 payout right there. And if I go over here to TradeSync, this is how I'm able to copy trade all my accounts. I copy trade my Apex, my Tradeful, and I recently just got some Alpha accounts as well. Again, yeah, I mean, these are the Apex accounts. We're up over 7 grand on these accounts, so about 140,000 and about 50,000 on the Tradeful accounts. I am max allocated with both firms. You can see that, the balances are sitting pretty right now, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to request a payout with Apex next week and as well with Tradeful next week. All I need is about a $850 gain on the Apex accounts to request the full $2,750. And then for the Tradeful accounts, all I need, is another like 1,500. So we are right there. We're right there at the finish line. So we're gonna get those payouts and then hopefully, keep these accounts for as long as possible and keep getting those consistent payouts. Because the first payout doesn't matter as long as you just keep consistently getting those payouts. That's what really matters, right? Long term success, not those little short-term big payouts, and then you go back and waste a bunch of money on challenges and stuff. That's not what we do around here. But yeah, you can see these Apex accounts sitting pretty here, and then this is the calendar here. This is what we're going to be using for the reference here because I don't use TradeZella or anything. You can't connect more than 20 accounts, so I'm just going to go over the Tradeful account calendar, P&L calendar thing here. So I'm just going to use the Tradeful P&L calendar here. So this last week, these are across 5 accounts. So that's why I see a lot of trades here. On Tuesday, I'll explain what happened on Tuesday here. But the rest of the days are pretty self-explanatory. But this last week, man, I feel like was a pretty easy week. I'm sure a lot of you guys ended up, green on the week, ended up killing it this week. I'll go ahead and explain my thought process for this week, and hopefully you guys see how I view the markets and how I take trades and my whole thought process and things like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. And again, this last week, one of my biggest weeks in my trading career, we made about $95,000 across Apex and Tradeful accounts. So let's get into it. All right, so coming into this week here, last week, not the week that just finished, but the previous weekly candle closed as an inside bar. So what I was really focused on this week was, and what my eye was going to this week was the previous week, the March 10th weekly candle. This was our candle range, right? I know some of you guys might not know about this concept. It's called CRT. A guy named Romeo on Twitter popularized it, but I've been using it. I'll give credit where credit is due. Does work. I like using it for a directional bias. I don't solely base my trade ideas off of this. I just kind of use it for, again, directional bias. So when we got the close last week, we closed as an inside bar in this candle's range. So I was using this as my, range. So if we drop down to the daily chart, you can see, I mean, this is a pretty clear range, right? Even on the daily, it's kind of messy here from last Friday's close. So once we opened on Sunday and I seen the gap up, if we start zooming into the 1 hour chart, you'll see that we have a nice gap up. So the weekly candle actually opened up with no bottom wick. Now, anytime we open up with no bottom or top wick, we call this the devil's mark. Usually price will refer back down to that area to give that candle a wick. So I already had it in my head, okay, I am bullish to start this week, and I did explain this to the mentees in my Discord group. I was telling them on Sunday, because we usually do a Sunday outlook and preparations call for the week ahead. I was telling them basically, okay, what I want to see, in a perfect world, we would come down, fill this new week opening gap, which is AKA like a liquidity void, right? Where there is no trading taking place here. There's no candles. Most of the time, like 95% of the time, price action will refer back down into this area. It doesn't have to be right away. It can be later on in the week, whatever. So we had a different couple scenarios here for this week here. So in a perfect world, we would have seen this come down in Asia session overnight in London on Sunday night, fill this, and then push up, right? So my bias going into this week was I want to see us come down, fill this, and then start pushing up to that previous new week opening gap, which was that weekly fair value gap and weekly volume imbalance. That's where I wanted price to go up there, right? Because we can use fair value gaps as an internal liquidity draw, right? A draw on liquidity, but in an internal form. So I wanted to see us come down, fill this, or even tap into this 1 hour fair value gap that we left on Friday there. So it was either come down, fill this, push up, or come down even further, fill that, and push up. Fortunately, you guys already know we did not do that. We ended up just ripping higher, which was perfectly fine with me. I'm not too opposed to that. That's perfectly fine with me. So we had some buy side right there, and we also had buy side up here. So I'll go ahead and mark out those levels. Go ahead and mark out those levels there. So coming into Monday here, this is the market open, and I'll start zooming into it here in a little bit. I was really sick this week at the beginning of this week. So I did go live with my group. I tried to make an effort to go live, and they can tell you that we ended up trying a long right here, and I did end up getting out of this trade, but I did re-enter when we started reclaiming the fair value gap here. So this was the draw on liquidity, this buy side level here. Now we had a fair value gap here. All right, so 930 opened up lower, we manipulated lower, and then we ended up reclaiming that. Ended up pushing higher, displacing and making a fair value gap. That's what I like to see. But then this candle aggressively closed below, and we actually did end up tapping a 15-minute order block right here, and then we ended up pushing right back up. So I noticed that. I ended up getting right back in up here once this candle closed, and then I just rode it out up to this buy side level here. I did take a couple other micro trades, but wasn't anything too crazy. Anytime I do take extra trades, I'm always reducing the size, like literally always reducing the size, because anytime you guys try and take a second, third, fourth, fifth trade, whatever it is, and you guys try to up your size, you are literally risking your P&L. So you're putting more risk on the table. It just doesn't make sense. Like if you already win, you might as well, if you're looking to actually trade more, you might as well just reduce that risk by a fifth, by a tenth, or whatever it is that you're comfortable risking, but just don't risk your whole P&L. It just doesn't make sense to do that. Anyways, that was the Monday trades. After that, I mean, it was very, very high resistance trading. If we just fast forward Monday's price action, it was very, very back and forth. And you guys already know, anytime that there is just very back and forth price action, we are disrespecting all the PD arrays in both directions. It just isn't high probability to trade. Monday and Tuesday of this last week that just passed were high resistance days. When we get into Wednesday, that's when stuff really started picking up. And that's when we made 30K days back to back to back. It was absolutely insane. But Tuesday, I did have some trouble. This is when I was really, really sick. But let's go ahead and talk about what happened on Tuesday here. So coming into Tuesday, we had a bullish SMT happening with the NQ and ES chart. So if you look at ES on this day, we did have ES making a higher low and then NQ making a lower low. So this is a sign of bullish manipulation. We ended up coming lower, sweeping that, and then pushing way higher. Okay, breaking structure, changing delivery here on the 1 hour chart. So we did have a draw on liquidity in the form of a buy side level right here, which was a little bit higher than the weekly volume imbalance, which is right here from this previous NWOG. Now, I was looking for higher prices here. The only thing that was a struggle on this day was the 1 hour was pretty clear, but nothing else was clear. Like the 5-minute wasn't super clear. The 15-minute wasn't super clear. And these are the time frames that I use for intraday day trading. So if we start fast forwarding here, you can see 945 came down and tapped the, I believe it was the 1 hour fair value gap. Yeah, we came down, respected that 1 hour fair value gap here. That was in a discount of this range before we made a new high. If we go ahead and mark out our fib, anchor it from this low and bring it up to this high, you can see we tapped a discounted 1 hour fair value gap there. Now, if we go to the 5-minute here, you'll see that we did end up changing delivery here. And this is actually where I wanted to long, but I wanted to long it on ES because ES was the cleaner pair here, in my opinion. We did have a 1 hour fair value gap as well on ES. So we ended up changing delivery here on ES. You can see the nice sweep. We had a bullish SMT. It was very, very clean here on Tuesday, in my opinion. I ended up missing this trade. I had set a limit. I told my group I was setting limits here, and it ended up running away. Now, when we started getting up here, this is where I started looking for potential shorts, because if I fast forward over here on NQ, once we came up and tried to take that buy side, which we did, yeah, we took it out right there. If you go and look at the NQM chart, we didn't take that buy side level there. This chart right here. So this is the continuous chart, which I do chart on. But if you go look at the NQM chart, which I was early on in the week, we did not take that buy side level. I think it was like 501 on that chart. So we didn't take it. And I seen that we took it on NQ on the continuous chart, right? So we had an SMT divergence there on the continuous charts between ES and NQ there. So if I go ahead and zoom out over here on the ES chart, you see this high here is that high there on NQ. We ended up sweeping that and creating a bearish SMT there. So I was looking for shorts here, but I was staying cautious because the other chart, the NQM chart, did not sweep out that level. So I was expecting higher here. So, you know, I wanted to try this short here with 1 micro. And I did end up, you know, it did end up playing out, but I don't remember. I didn't journal this day because there was just so many trades that I took on the Apex and Tradeful accounts. And really, it was just a lot of flipping with 1 or 2 micros. I was really just, you know, I don't know what I was doing on this day, to be honest. I was just going back and forth here. I was looking for shorts. I did catch some shorts, and it was about like $100 or something like that. Wasn't anything crazy because I was just going lower sides because I did recognize the conditions were very high resistance. I mean, this day was extremely high resistance. If you just look at the 1 minute, this thing was just very, very back and forth. It was making shallow lows, shallow highs, shallow runs literally everywhere. And then later in the afternoon, you know, we came right back up to that buy side there to end the day with a new high of day. So it was a pretty difficult day in my opinion, and I just kept flipping back and forth with 1 or 2 micros. And that's a very important thing, right? I wasn't trying to jump into this day and trying to do 1 or 2 minis. That would have destroyed the accounts. I was aware that this day was very high resistant. We weren't really delivering to the downside. We weren't delivering to the upside here at around like lunchtime in the PM session. It was just very, very back and forth, right? Up until like the last the last hour of the day. So I was just flipping back and forth with 1 or 2 micros. That's why you guys seen in the Tradeful screenshots, there's like 70 trades or something like that. It's about like 11, 12 trades on the account. So it's about, 1 or 2 micros just back and forth. Thankfully though, we ended the day up about like $300 on each account. So just keep in mind, every single account isn't going to have the same exact P&L, especially when you're using TradeSync. It's going to be like a little bit different on each account. So it was about like 275 to 350 around that range that we made on this day. So ended up coming out green on the day, but I did take the short. This was like the majority of the win here was that short. Yeah, so Tuesday was a pretty difficult day. And again, this was just by myself. I was feeling really sick. I wasn't really feeling up for a live stream with my group. I did live stream in the morning, and I did tell them that this trade was probably the best one this long here. The CISD change, the flow state model here on ES was the cleaner one. That was the one I wanted, but unfortunately I didn't get it. The limits never hit because I set the limits right when ES was like up here. This day was, again, Monday and Tuesday, very high resistance, all good. Once we get into Wednesday, though, this is when things started clearing up really good for us, and the rest of the week was just a freaking breeze, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into Wednesday's price action, and I'll talk you guys through what I seen on Wednesday. All right, so coming into Wednesday, the first thing that I noticed and the first thing that my eye went to was this 4-hour CRT. So this 4-hour range here was the thing I was paying attention to here on Wednesday. So this 4-hour range was the first thing I was paying attention to here coming into the day on Wednesday. And the thing that I really liked about this is that NQ actually opened up. So when the new daily candle opened up, it opened up higher and we swept the previous day high. Now, when we did that, we had a bearish SMT with ES. So that right there was a really good sign. And in my opinion, I was really confident that we were going to go lower on this day here. Just we had a bunch of stuff here. So we had, we were in that weekly fair value gap and volume imbalance. So all I needed was a change in the state of delivery all the way down here. As long as a 4-hour candle closed below the opening price of this first up close candle in the series of up close candles that, you know, swept liquidity, tapped into that weekly volume imbalance, which is the aligned time frame to the 4-hour, you know, we were good to go, and that was going to be it for the rest of the week. And my target for the week was going to be the NWOG and possibly the previous week low. So I like this. I liked all these bearish confluences. And if we start going to the 1-hour, this is the new daily opening here on the 1-hour. We pushed up, we swept the previous day high, and we just kept rejecting that high right there on the 4-hour. And then we ended up displacing lower and forming a bearish fair value gap here in the Asia session. Now, if we start going to the 15-minute time frame, this is actually when I started alerting my group that I wanted shorts right around here. So we had a nice equal highs here, and then London session actually ended up sweeping those highs and displacing lower. So if I go ahead and fast forward price action here, this is actually when I started telling my group, okay, hey guys, I'm looking for shorts right around here. So when this candle was forming here at 845, this was a pre-market short. Now, if you guys have been trading for the last couple of weeks, you guys know all the moves have been happening in Asia, London, or pre-market, right? So this is my thought process here. I was like, all right, if we are going to deliver down into the 4-hour CRT low, which, you know, there are relative equal lows at that, which is, this is a 4-hour CRT low, but that low is relative to that low right there. And then this is another low right there, another sell side level there. And then this is previous day low. So I was like, all right, if we're going to deliver at least to the 4-hour CRT low in the sell side level here at 402, I want it to be from here. If we open up the ES chart here on Wednesday, you'll see that we had multiple bearish SMTs. Okay, this is another thing that was telling me, it was screaming sell. We had SMT right here at the previous day high with ES. Then we had SMT right here again, right there with ES and NQ. And then we had SMT one more time right here. So if you guys have seen the Phoenix model, you guys will see on the 1-hour chart, go to the 1-hour chart. This is the rejection block. We hit the 0.5 of that rejection block right there. So that was another confluence as well. Is like, okay, we swept out those equal highs in London. I feel like London high isn't, you know, that is not going to be taken because we have SMT with ES. That rejection block, the 0.5 should hold. I don't want to see a 1-hour candle body close above the 0.5 of this 1-hour rejection block. That was another confluence. On the 15-minute, when this candle was pushing up, we had that candle pushing up right here on ES, sweeping this high, making another bearish SMT in this 15-minute fair value gap. So this is actually where I had alerted shorts to my group. So this was a short right here, had the stop right there, and I was aiming for the 4-hour CRT low, which again, the 4-hour is aligned to the 15-minute time frame. That is the lower time frame that is aligned to. So I didn't even go to the 1-minute. I like this right here. I put the stop right there. I trusted the system. I trusted the Phoenix model. I trusted the flow state model. I trusted my bearish analysis because we had multiple bearish SMTs here. We had the sweep of these equal highs. No reason for this to come up to here or here because we had, again, 2 bearish SMTs right there. And if you go look at your YM chart, I'm not going to do it for you guys because I actually want you guys to get in your charts and look at it. But if you go look at the YM chart, we actually had another SMT at the Asia high with YM, the Dow Jones, all right? So at this point, YM was like all the way up here, and it ended up sweeping the Asia high as well. So this was just another confluence on top of all these bearish confluences. And if I fast forward this, you can see that we ended up just ripping to the previous day low. And I had some students actually hold this trade all the way to previous day low for a total of about a 14 RR. This was a 30K day here across all accounts, Tradeful, Apex, and TopStep-X. So that was the trade that we took on Wednesday, and you guys already know that Wednesday it just ended up ripping to the downside and ended up tapping the NWOG. Now let's go ahead and talk about what happened on Thursday. All right, so just like I mentioned a little bit ago on Wednesday's price action, on what I wanted to see was a 4-hour change in the state of delivery out of that weekly fair value gap and volume imbalance. Well, we ended up getting that, and we ended up getting nice, very, very nice displacement, break of structure, all that good stuff. We ended up violating all these bullish PD arrays here on the 4-hour, creating new, fresh, bearish PD arrays. All right, so that's exactly what I wanted to see here, and I was very confident that the rest of the week was going to go lower and possibly down into the previous week low, which was right here. So I was very confident that we were going to go lower. On Thursday, the mindset that I had here was I was really paying attention to the new week opening gap. So I wanted to see us flip the new week opening gap here. All right, so coming into Thursday, I wanted to see us flip and close below the new week opening gap on the 15-minute, the 1 hour, or the 4 hour time frame, right? I wanted to see us flip that and then start distributing lower down into the previous week low. So just fast forwarding here into the New York session for Thursday, it was a range day. It was a reaccumulation day for Friday to gear up and go lower. I didn't know that though at the time. I was really confident in Thursday, just moving lower. But after a big distribution day like Wednesday, we can expect consolidation. So that's exactly what happened here on Thursday. So if we go to the 15-minute time frame, actually go to the 5. If we go to the 1-minute time frame here in the NWOG, I actually ended up taking a short here on Thursday in the first presented fair value gap. So here at 9:32, the first presented fair value gap is basically a 1-minute fair value gap after 9:30. After 9:30 at 9:32, we formed a bearish fair value gap under this low here. If you guys have watched my important fair value gap video, you guys know that this fair value gap here, not only is it a presented fair value gap, but it is an important fair value gap. So what I did was ended up shorting the top of that fair value gap with the stop at the high. I was confident that the CE, which is this line right here in the middle of the purple box, was going to hold, and we were going to deliver down into this 1 hour fair value gap right here. I'll just draw a line for it so that way you guys know where it's at. Go back to the 1 minute. You guys will see here, I was aiming for that, but then I noticed that price action was getting pretty slow right here. So I ended up trimming and going break even, and I ended up getting stopped at break even. But I did make a profit on the Apex and Tradeful accounts and all my accounts on that day. And what I wanted to see us do here, if we were going to push up and go for the Asia high, which was the target, if we were to, flip here, was I wanted to see us flip the first presented fair value gap, which we ended up doing, and we ended up forming an opposing fair value gap to the other side. So the thing is here, my thought process here when I was live with the group was like, all right, we have the first presented fair value gap. We have an important fair value gap that broke the lows. This should send it lower, but since we are forming opposing PD arrays in the other side, right, which is the buy side, right, it's changing to a buy program. I want to see, if I want to go short, I want to see this bullish fair value gap here flip to the downside. But you can see here, we ended up ripping higher and closing above the first presented fair value gap and the important fair value gap. And then we ended up pushing way higher and getting back above the new week opening gap. So at this point, I was like, all right, this is going to go higher. We broke this high. So now we have a new important fair value gap right here. So this is where we had set limits in the 1 minute fair value gap with the group, and I was aiming for that Asia high. And then there was a 15-minute fair value gap above the Asia high as well. This is one of my favorite setups because when we have imbalances above swing highs or swing lows, or session highs and session lows, those usually are a good magnet for price as well. Like if we come and sweep this, price will usually just blast to that imbalance above or below those swing highs and lows. So if we go back to the 1 minute, we're waiting for a tap here, and I actually told the group that I had a soft stop because what I wanted to see us do here was I wanted to see us tap the fair value gap and then run away immediately, because Tuesday and Monday were high resistance days. I was afraid that this was going to happen again on Thursday since we didn't deliver lower and we didn't flip the NWOG. So I was like, all right, my thought process here was like, okay, this is high resistance. This may be high resistance if we don't, get an immediate reaction off this fair value gap here. We ended up coming lower, tapping the first presented fair value gap one more time. And then we also had a 5-minute FVG here. My mistake here was not paying attention to the 5-minute and just chilling on the 5-minute time frame. What I did here on this day was I was too zoomed in on the 1 minute. I was too focused on this being a high resistance day. And, I ended up getting out for break even here. So I ended up just profiting here on this trade there. And this trade ended up going without me. I did actually try a couple micros just up to the Asia high here on this day. So that's why, again, on the Tradeful calendar, you guys might see more than like 2 or 3 trades. That's because I did try like 2 micros right here in this fair value gap. Nothing super crazy. Like if I ever do try and go in with like 2 or 3 more trades for the day, I'm always reducing my size to like a 5th or a 10th. I always have to do that because I'm not trying to like, if I'm already up for the day, there's no reason for me to go in and put that much risk back on the table for what? Even if it does work out, I'm just breaking my rules. If I do decide to though, if I do see something that I like, I'm throwing in a micro, I'm throwing in 2 micros, maybe even 3. And that's cool. That's pocket change. That's fine. Like across 20, 25 accounts, if I make $100, you know, what is that across 20 accounts? That's 2K. Like that's perfectly fine with me. You guys don't need to risk too much, especially if you have a lot of accounts. Let the capital do the heavy lifting for you. You guys don't need to risk a whole bunch of fucking minis or, you know, a lot of micros to make a profit, bro. You guys don't need to do that, especially if you're trading with prop firms and you have a lot of accounts. So this was the last trade that I took on Thursday, and it was an inversion fair value gap trade. I don't trade inversions too much, but I did notice that this fair value gap here formed above these highs. It broke through these highs. So if you are bullish, you would expect this fair value gap here to hold and push higher. Unfortunately, again, that didn't happen, as you can see here. We ended up displacing lower, and then I noticed that we were using this a couple times as, you know, resistance here. So I did like that. I did end up market entering here with about a couple micros. I think it was like 2 micros, and I ended up just taking it down to the top of the new week opening gap for about a 2.91. I think my fill was like 148. So it was about like, that's what it looked like there. So it was about a 2.69 RR. And that ended up playing out pretty nice here. And that was pretty much it. But that was it for Thursday. Let's go ahead and go into Friday, which was a beauty of a day. And I'll go ahead and explain my thought process for Friday here. All right, so coming into Friday, I actually ended up telling my group when we did our, you know, daily recaps, which we do every day at market close. On Thursday, I told them, once we flip the CE of the NWOG, and once we close an hourly candle, a 4-hour candle below this new week opening gap, I do think that previous week low is coming. I think that's going to be the target for Friday, because since Thursday was pretty much a tight range day, right? This was the daily high and the daily low. Since Thursday was a tight range day, I am expecting Friday to distribute lower. Since Wednesday was a distribution leg, this was a reaccumulation leg to what? Go lower, right? So this was the objective for Friday. I was very confident once we flipped that NWOG, we were going to go lower. And funny enough, I ended up shorting the daily opening. So right when the new daily candle opened, I just ended up shorting it there. And if I go to the 15-minute time frame, I'll show you where I ended up shorting this from. So I went short right here, had a stop right at the NWOG high, and I was pretty much aiming for that previous week low like that. And I did send this in my Discord too. I was like, hey, is this crazy? I'll attach a screenshot or something. I was like, is this a crazy idea? But I was pretty confident in this happening since we did flip it on the 15-minute time frame as well. So I'll go ahead and fast forward to New York session so I can show you where I ended up shorting on my TopStep-X account, and again, taking another short on my Apex accounts during New York session to catch a piece of that distribution leg. All right, so coming into New York session here, we did have a bearish fair value gap here. If I go to the 15-minute time frame, you'll see that we actually didn't have any bearish SMT here. We did have a bearish SMT with ES at this high here. So ES did end up sweeping that high there. NQ did not, but we did displace lower here this was the London high. And I know a lot of people got tripped up with these equal highs that the market made. So I know this pump here at 9 a.m. was very, very sus. There was no reason for this to push up like this, in my opinion. So all these stops that were right here were trailed down to these relative equal highs. So once this came back up like this, I know a lot of people got tripped up here with these relative equal highs. I know a lot of people that were trying to long on this day. They were bullish on this day. So I was not bullish on this day. I was actually, again, bearish from the thought process of, you know, the weekly high being made on Wednesday. We had a 4-hour change in delivery. We distributed lower on Wednesday, reaccumulation on Thursday to go lower on Friday. So I was very confident in Friday being a distribution leg down into here, which is the previous weekly low. All right, so keep that in mind. So we ended up opening here at 9:30, taking out this low here. And when we came right back up into this 5-minute BPR, this is where I actually ended up shorting on TopStep-X. And we had a 5-minute BPR here, which is an overlapped BISI with the SIBI. All right, so when you have an overlapped fair value gap, a bullish one and a bearish one, that is a balanced price range. We came up and we respected it multiple times here, and finally ended up falling lower here at 10 a.m. And this is when I was live with my mentee group. With my mentee group, we do exclusive lives whenever I don't go live with the rest of the Discord with my other private members. But if you guys are interested in me, you know, reviewing your trades, giving you critique, telling you guys what you need to work on, having an exclusive trading psychology coach and best-selling author, he is the author of The Mental Game of Trading. If you guys are interested in having stuff like that, a whole community of, you know, just like-minded individuals who are taking this shit serious and you want critique on your trades and you want me to review your trades, you want that one-on-one mentorship, that, you know, guidance to profitability, and to be able to scale this shit up to 10K a month, 20K a month, the possibilities are fucking endless. You guys just see me break down a $95,000 trading week between 2 firms. It's not even counting Top Step X and potential firms that I'm gonna add on later. If you guys want that, the first link in the description, that will be where you guys can apply to work with me one-on-one. But if you guys want to just join the community and see what it's all about, see me trade live completely free for 5 days. We have a 5-day free trial. That is going to be the second link in the description if you guys want to join that. But if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, that will be the first link in the description. We don't just bring on anybody either. We do a whole like interview process. We screen you. We make sure that you are a qualified person. There's a couple things that we ask you, and you know, not everybody gets in the mentorship. So if you think you're a good fit to work with me one-on-one, go ahead and apply with the first link down in the description below. But let's go ahead and continue with this video. Here on the 1-minute time frame, I'll go ahead and just zoom in here. That was that 5-minute BPR. We actually have the first presented fair value gap right here. So we ended up flipping that first presented fair value gap there. And we have an overlapped regular 1-minute bearish fair value gap here at the 10 a.m. open. So what I was telling my mentorship group when we were doing the live here was like, if I wanted to see us distribute lower, which again we did here, I fast forwarded a little too much, but if we want to see us move lower, we're going to see it at 10 a.m. That's exactly what I told them, and they can vouch for me as well, because I was like, all right, if we are going to move lower, we're going to do it at 10 a.m. If we're going to move higher, I want to see the invalidation in this 5-minute BPR, and then we can aim for possibly London high and higher, but that didn't happen, right? We were going lower. So if I fast forward here and go to the 1 minute, this is actually where I took another trade here on my Apex accounts. So if I mark out this fair value gap here, this was an institutional order flow entry drill, meaning that when we are heavy on one side, these fair value gaps should respect on the 1 minute. So we ended up tapping here. I didn't get the perfect fill. I didn't set a limit or anything. I just ended up market entering right around here and taking it down to the previous weekly low. And I told them that it most likely will not retrace into a 5-minute gap or that 15-minute gap that it formed. We were most likely going to deliver from this 1 minute fair value gap into that previous week low. And they actually told me that they didn't want to take this because this candle had no wick. Remember at the beginning of the video here when I told you guys, we call this the devil's mark. When a candle has no top wick or bottom wick, it usually comes back up to give it a wick. This doesn't hold much weight if it's on the 1 minute. If it's on a 5-minute, 15-minute, or a 1 hour open, 4 hour open, it holds a lot more weight than just a random 1 minute candle. And that's exactly what I told them when we were live trading as well. I was like, you guys don't need to be scared to take this 1 minute fair value gap entry because this one doesn't hold as much weight as like a 15-minute or a 1 hour no wick candle, right? It doesn't hold as much weight. So I ended up entering here with a couple micros, and I ended up taking it down to the previous week low for, you know, a total of about 100 points. And that was pretty much it for me. I was content with enough. I absolutely killed it this week. And I know a lot of my mentees, I know a lot of my students in the Discord ended up killing this week as well. But if we go to the 1 hour, I mean, this Friday was absolutely crazy. We pretty much ended up coming very, very close to that weekly CRT low, which was right there. We ended up sweeping that low here at 4 p.m. It was after hours, but we ended up sweeping that low. And I think we gapped down at the beginning of next week to take out that low. But that is the objective. But that's going to be the objective for next week for sure. And I think September lows is going to come pretty quick once we get below that low there, which is around like 19,000. So be ready for that. But this was a banger week that just closed out. Hopefully, again, everybody banked this week. And again, if you guys are interested in a one-on-one mentorship, you guys can apply down below. There's a lot of information on what we do down below with that first link in the description. And if you guys just want to join the free community for 5 days, watch me trade live, ask me questions personally, you guys can join in the second link down below completely for free. Appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll catch you guys later. If you guys have any questions, ask them in the comments down below, and I'll go ahead and answer them when I can. But appreciate you guys watching this video. Catch you guys in the next one, and have a good rest of you guys' day.